This is my 15.2 physiological and psychological responses to common sporting injuries assignment. So during this assignment, I'm going to be looking at psychological and physiological common injuries that take place. And for the physiological, I'm going to be looking at the actual injuries that take place, and then for the psychological, the effects that these injuries then have on the brain. And from this, I'm then going to apply the knowledge I know to real life case studies. So starting with the physiological responses, effects of responses. The first one to look at is strains. So there are three grades of strain, so three severities of strain. And these are starting with grade 1, and grade 1, as said there, is 5 to 10% tearing of the muscle fibers. This is minor damage that usually causes minimal loss of strength and limited loss of motion. These generally only last for about 2-3 weeks to improve. And all these strains are caused by overstretching of the muscle, so eccentric movements. And these eccentric movements result in the tearing of the muscle fibers, which in turn damages the muscle. So the grade 2 strain is 10 to 15% damage, and these are more extensive damage, with the muscle not completely disjointed and torn, but there will still be a significant loss of strength and motion, and these are normally considerably longer than grade 1, so 2 to 3 months before these are fully healed and fixed. And then finally, you've got grade 3, which is a complete rupture of the muscle, or potentially a tendon that may have occurred, so a complete detachment of the muscle. And these will cause considerably, as 50% of the to 100% of the muscle is torn and it's ruptured and damaged, it is going to cause considerably more swelling than the last two, and a considerably greater period of time out, probably 6 months plus, because these often could need surgery and operations on them, and the muscle has been completely ruptured, so it will really need time to recover. The next type of injury to look at is sprains, and these sprains are normally can be caused by little holes in the pitch, or just any general turning of the ankle that turns the ankle. So these also come in three grades of severity. And the first one is a grade 1. A grade 1 strain consists of less than 10% disruption of the muscle fibers. And although there's a sharp pain at the time of injury, you can usually carry on, might be able to run it off. And as mentioned, there'll be mild pain, and there'll be quite localized tenderness. So this will potentially cause a little bit of swelling, but not too much, and there'll be not a significant effect on the strength and the power and the mobility of the ankle through a grade 1 sprain. Grade 2, obviously this will be a more severe, so this is 10 to 15% disruption of the muscle fibers in the ankle. And this will lead to clear loss of strength compared to grade 1, where you can carry on. You'll be unable to carry on and continue. But recovery time won't be too significant for this compared to a grade 3. Whereas a grade 3 will result in immediate pain and disability of the ankle, so you won't be able to move it. You'll be unable to move it, and it will lead to immediate stop of injury, of play, and you'll be able to produce no strength and no movement whatsoever in it. And this is 50 to 100% disruption of the muscle fibers. Moving on to hematomas, and hematomas refers to the swelling of blood clotting within the tissues that can be caused by a collection of blood outside of the blood vessels. And the walls of the blood vessels are normally injured for this to occur, and this is what prompts the blood to seep out of the blood vessels into the surrounding tissue. And there are two types of hematomas which can take place within the muscles, and these are intermuscular. And intermuscular refers to bleeds that occur within the actual compartment of the muscles. So the bleeds happen within the muscles, and they don't seep out into surrounding areas. And that is unlike intramuscular hematomas, where the blood does escape to the surrounding tissue. And for intramuscular hematomas, you will see bruising start to take place. So potentially a intermuscular, you'll still have the pain, but you won't have the actual visual signs, unlike the bruising of the intramuscular hematomas produce. So the next potential sign of an injury is inflammation. And inflammation will occur when there is dead tissue or damaged muscle tissue, and a sign is then sent to the brain to then cause the body to for the inflammation to then take place. So in order to do this, the body sends large amounts of blood to the area of injury, and this large amount of blood that is sent to the damaged tissue to try and repair the damaged tissue and dispose of the damaged tissue is enlarged and then inflamed to show that this process is taking place. The next section of physiological response to injury that you'll see is the blood clotting mechanism. The blood clotting mechanism begins when someone suffers a cut to an artery or alike. So the cut artery will begin by, there will be platelets that are running through the cut artery. These will then start to seep out through the cut in the artery, the platelets, along with the clotting factors. And the platelets will begin to stick as a sort of temporary block to the will act as a temporary block to stop the blood seeping out. And the platelets will then attract more platelets will send off a chemical to attract more platelets. This will add to the temporary block that is in place. The clotting factors will then add to the reinforcements that the platelets have set. These clotting factors will help the platelets which have stopped the external bleeding to they're helpful because they're sticky. So these clotting factors will help to stick the fibrin, which is the next aspect of the blood clotting mechanism, together to the where the platelets have created this plug. And this fibrin, along with the other cells which support the clot, will help to block the cut from the inside, so that the clot can then begin to heal the vessel that has been injured and cut open. The final aspect of the physiological responses to injury after the blood clotting mechanism is the stages of healing. So the first stage is obviously, as mentioned before, the inflammation stage, where blood rushes to the area of damaged muscle tissue, and this will last for potentially 10% of the recovery time and the healing time. The next stage is then the reparative stage of injury, which is the fixing of them, that injury that is sustained. So you could look at the first bit as also almost a emergency response, a preventative stage to further damage, and then the next stage is rebuilding, is further rebuilding and stabling the injury that has occurred. And then finally, the last phase is the remodeling of the muscle and the new tissue that is going to take place, and this will help ensure that the muscle is reformed to its original strength and is able to be fixed and working again as usual. And this is the longest stage, the remodeling stage, which accounts for 70%. And as you can see, there is overlap between the stages of what is happening within these.